Hey.
Hi. Just checking our social media, seeing what you're interested in, and we're talking about an NTSB report we have in here at the TFP today about the I-75 crash over the summer that left 6 people dead. So Ellis has it in for us, and we're going to go over that for you.
Yeah, this was in it was in 2015. A lot of you remember there
2015, July 2015.
There was a horrific truck crash, and the guy plowed through, I think it was a couple of football fields worth of cars, parked cars, killed 6 people or left 6 people dead. I don't know that they've determined. He's not necessarily guilty yet. He's in jail. Right. He's been charged with 6 counts of vehicular homicide. But the NTSB released the report today. They said driver fatigue and drug use led to the 9-vehicle crash. And that's the National Transportation Safety Board. They usually come in whenever there's big crashes. They come in and they have very smart people that kind of measure everything. And the gentleman's name who was driving the truck was Ben Brewer. He was using methamphetamine when he crashed into stop traffic.
And have gone 40 hours without rest.
Which I can barely go like 15 hours without rest. I start needing a nap.
Well, you're about to have a baby, so get ready, honey.
Yeah. Investigators testified today in a hearing in Washington, D.C. Our reporter, Shelley Bradbury, was monitoring that, taking notes. We'll have a fuller report for you tomorrow. But it wasn't, while Brewer was, they say he was on meth, he hadn't slept, so he didn't even hit the brakes, it seemed like, when he smashed through all this stuff. But there were also problems. How was he hired? How come pre-screening processes at the trucking company didn't turn up any of the problems that he had? He had previously been fired from a trucking company because he tested positive for methamphetamine. And he'd crashed 7 times in the 3 years before the fatal Chattanooga crash. So a couple of those,
it's got to be horrible.
Any
for the
one of those
families
things could have been red flags. I don't know whether they didn't check or whether they were ignored, but I'm sure that'll come up as we move forward, because really, the guy's driving an 18-wheeler. I haven't had that many crashes. 7 crashes in 3 years. Now, I don't drive as much as a truck driver, but that's still a ton.
Well, it's just horrible, for these families when there are people who die and you hear this information that's factual information, and like, why was this person out on the road?
Yeah. And he crashed during the trip. He had crashed. He was going down, I can't remember the location. I think it was in Florida. He was driving down to Florida. He crashed, I think sideswiped someone, and continued on his journey. And then came back and did another crash in Chattanooga that killed 6 people. So there were not only warning signs in the years leading up to this, there were warning signs on the very trip that he was taking that turned fatal. So
we'll continue
a lot of problems
to follow that and investigate, and then
tomorrow we'll have a full story. Shelley Bradbury is doing a deep dive into that, and so we'll have more of that for you.
Yeah, definitely. And let's go on to another law. We have 2 more law enforcement topics, starting with this East Lake gang activity.
Yeah.
For nearly 5 hours in a packed courtroom, witness after witness relayed the same message. East Lake is a hub of criminal activity thanks to 31 men who belong to gangs. We have video of activity in East Lake for you on our website.
Drive-by shootings, and
caught on video.
It's pretty bad. There's a lot of security cameras there that capture all these things, and it's just, I guess what Neil Pinkston, who's our district attorney here in Hamilton County, the point of what he was saying is that these are dangerous people. They're basically putting the community into a state that's living in fear, because they seem to have little regard for whether there's innocent bystanders standing around when they open fire. The regard for human life is not what you would want. And so what he's doing is he's putting them in a special category, as I understand it, where he's saying you can't spend time hanging out with one another. You can't.
He's aiming to discourage these 31 men as gang members from participating in criminal gang activity within a 2-mile area of East Lake. So now, if approved, the petition would levy a $50 fine and 30 days jail time for any targeted man who violates 11 listed activities.
I think they're calling it a safety zone.
Right.
But yeah, the activities are, drinking alcohol, possessing guns and drugs, signaling the arrival of police. So lookouts, a lot of gangs will use a lookout to say the police are coming, hide the stuff, hanging out with other accused gang members. Now, all that sounds well and good, but
the defense attorneys for these gang members are saying, wait here. And Pinkston is arguing that the injunction would give law enforcement a tool to make Eastlake safer. Now, these defense attorneys, like I said, they're like, let's wait a minute here. They're saying it's going to open the door for illegal police seizures, and
right,
it would be violating people's First Amendment rights to association.
Because hanging out with someone, like if I'm hanging out with you,
Never.
And you're a bad person, as defined by this or whatever. Does that make me guilty of that crime? Well, traditionally in America, no, we don't have guilt by association. The First Amendment allows you to associate with people who you want to associate with. Police have to have probable cause typically before they can, come into your home or search your car. They have to smell marijuana. And so the defense attorneys are worried that this removes a lot of the burden of proof from police officers for innocent people who might get caught up in this, because they're hanging around the wrong area, or maybe they're friends with one of these guys. They also brought up some issues with the idea of being a validated gang member. Well, who validates that, and how do you do it?
It's tough.
They posted this thing on social media. Or,
they use points, tattoos,
they have a tattoo or something.
If you say you're in a gang, obviously.
And if you reach 10 points, you win. You're a validated gang member or something.
No,
I'm
it's
making
not
light of
a
it,
game, Ellis.
It's real life.
And why this all came about, there was a hearing we had mentioned where this packed courtroom, witness after witness, criminal court judge Barry Steelman wanted to continue hearing all these witnesses despite objections from defense attorneys, but his only stipulation was the witness testimony couldn't specifically discuss the 31 accused men named in Hamilton County DA's gang injunction. So Judge Steelman was saying, I want to give the attorneys who represent the defendants time to review all the exhibits, to consider all the testimony, and to think about the issues related to the matter. He then set next court date for Halloween, actually. So we're going to continue following this. There's a lot of debate about what we're talking about on social media. So, everyone's welcome to their opinion, and there are certainly a lot of them floating out there about this issue. So we're going to move on to something else that there's debates about in law enforcement. Drones. Law enforcement is using drones. So here, Hamilton County Sheriff's Office will begin using drones to gather evidence for court cases, detect bombs, and to find missing persons.
They used an example that you remember.
Yes, on Signal Mountain, a woman, a mom.
She had driven off the road, apparently, and she was missing. And I remember we reported
Gail Palmgren was missing April 30th, 2011, until her remains were found 8 months later in December. So,
and the only reason they noticed, they even found her, was I guess there was some rock on the, because it's a mountainous area, it's a mountainous road. Some rock had been was missing, and somebody said, I wonder if somebody drove off there, and the canopy was extremely thick, and somebody looked down in there, and there was, I guess, a car in her remains. But I don't know. I mean, it would have been weird. I don't know if a drone really could have helped. They used helicopters, I think, so I don't know how a drone would have helped in that situation, but maybe they could have flown in there to find her. But.
Well, Hamilton County Sheriff Jim Hammond thinks it could have. He said, some of you may remember the tragic case a couple of years ago where a lady drove off the mountain in her car and we didn't find her body for almost a year. We probably could have much quicker resolved that case if we had this kind of equipment. We think it will add a layer of quicker response in what we do. So that's, according to him, that's his opinion on what he says on that. And with that case and several other cases, I follow a lot of missing person cases, there's so much speculation about what happened to them and all this time and money and law enforcement that goes into it. And this woman, I remember that with this case, people were looking at her husband, as they usually do, look at the spouse. They were questioning everyone. A lot of people had ideas about what happened to her. And according to Sheriff Hammond, if they could have got a drone out there sooner, maybe a lot of that would have been eliminated, that investigation. So they are are doing this. And then there's the whole debate example. However, Hamilton County Sheriff, again, Jim Hammond, assures the public the equipment will not invade people's right to privacy. He went on to say, we want to make sure the public understands this is not about spying on people or looking in their bedroom windows, he said. This is all about following the law, making sure that it is supportive of good policing. So that's hard. I mean, there's this whole issue with Google Earth in the last year where the drones were taking shots of houses and businesses, and some people's cars were easily identifiable. So they were.
Some wives were like, "Hey, what were you doing over there? I thought you said you don't see her anymore."
Yeah, they were like, caught red-handed.
Yeah.
So now Google Earth, from what I understand, has started blurring out vehicles because people were.
They're getting caught.
They were getting caught, violated, privacy violated. So I'm sure there's going to be more stories that come out of this usage of drones. It's crazy, all the technology that's being used these days. But if it can help solve crimes, obviously, or find missing people that could still be alive, children, then the sheriff here, at least in Hamilton County, feels like that they need to use them.
And that's always difficult, especially as a member of a community where we do have a lot of crime, or at least the perception of a lot of crime in some areas.
I'd say so.
And you want to have that safety, but you also want to have that, keep your civil liberties intact and not have people spying on you 24 hours a day, right? And I'm not saying that's what they're doing here, but there's a balance
big brother
there. Yeah, but it's tough to find that
mentality.
balance, because if they say, oh, well, we'll stop people from shooting at you, you're like, oh, yay, oh, that's good, let's stop shootings. But we'll have to be watching you all the time. Oh, well, I don't like that. Well, it's difficult, and so that's why we have, that's why we have attorneys, frankly, who can argue these things out in court and decide.
Well, it goes back to like the video we have of Eastlake on our website for you, where we're catching all of these horrific criminal activities.
Yeah, they're under
action.
surveillance 24/7 over there, which is bad for them. I'm sure they don't enjoy being watched constantly, but when these guys do drive-bys and things like that, they're able to, in some cases, identify them and
arrest them and protect people from things happening to them or their children. There's been horrible stories about shootings of these mothers and their babies. There was a baby paralyzed in a shooting. So law enforcement is arguing, well, we have to do it. So.
And I'm obviously going beyond what Sheriff Hammond has said. He's not saying, I think at this point, that he's going to use this to fight crime, but I think if history has taught us anything, they would typically, whatever tools we give law enforcement, they will take them and expand them and use them however they can until somebody tells them not to. But so we'll see how it goes. But we actually, what's interesting about drones is we don't have a drone yet. We need to get a drone.
I want a drone.
If anybody wants to give me a drone,
I won't spy on you.
Yeah, I will. I promise. Yeah, I'm just going to use it for trains, train crashes, and parties.
It's really good video.
Yeah,
really is.
4K.
Yeah. All about it. But they've been training on these drones here in Hamilton County
How many have they got?
2014. They're telling me the cost of the training is $9,000. Another $10,000 for 5 drones.
5 drones. Okay.
For operational use and 1 drone for training. So far, just in the training process. But he explained again to our DA, Neil Pinkston, that Neil Pinkston will oversee the use of the equipment and make sure it's used within legal guidelines.
So he'll be kind of the referee and make sure that they're not, hovering outside your condo window, while you're in there trying to eat with your family or something. So,
and Pinkston says there's no blanket rule. It's generally used in a case-by-case analysis on the facts of that case. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and it'll be something where if there is evidence that's gathered via drone, I'm sure that we have some really good defense attorneys here in town, as we saw yesterday, arguing about some other stuff, and they will go to court and they'll say this shouldn't be admitted as evidence because it was gathered. The law the law says this, and then the burden will be on the prosecutor to argue that yes, it should. So these things, not to be like, oh, don't worry about it. These things will sort themselves out, but typically these things do sort themselves out as we go forward.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to continue to follow this technology and all the back and forth between law enforcement and you, the people, and your privacy. So be careful out
Send
there.
us a note. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a thought on it, drop us a note. Send us a note to news@timesfreepress.com, or you can comment on this story. Whatever. Yeah, we'd like to hear your opinions. So let us know what you think.
The good and the bad. We're not scared.
All right.
No drones on us. Okay.